This is Business Daily on Trust Television, where we bring you up to speed with trends in the world of business. My name is Chiamaka Enendu. As usual, let's kick the ground running by bringing you top stories from the world of business. And now let's take a look at how the markets fared during the Friday's trading session, where we saw the markets, of course, the NGX, end the trading day in the positive territory. We have seen the markets maintain the bullish trend for quite a while now. We saw the all-share index end in the positive at 0.04% at 70,849 points. And we did see the market capitalization hit 38.39 trillion naira. And the volume also rose to 555.6.229 million, while the value hit 16.79 billion naira. And we saw about 6,308 deals happen on the floor of the exchange on Friday. Away from that, now let's move on to the top gainers. Let's look at the gainers at the market during the trading session on Friday, where we did see FDG Group end the trading day as the top gainer for the Friday's trading session. Of course, we saw the FDG up by 9.97%, and followed closely by Mekia, of course, which was just recently listed on the floor of the exchange. We saw Mekia up by 9.80%, and closely followed by Maya, up also by 9.72%. And on the flip side, let's look at the losers, where Caverton, of course, led the table. Speaking of the table of losers, by minus 9.52%, closely followed by eTransact, of course, down by 4.43%. And next is Cortex, of course, the cable production company, which was down by 3.92%. Away from that, now let's move on to the sectoral, how sectors fared in the markets. On Friday, we did see the banking sector up by 0.21%. Industrial sector, on the other hand, ended the day in the bearish territory. We've seen that happen quite a lot lately, and we also did see the consumer goods sector up by 0.48%, and that did not come as a shock. Of course, we've seen the fast-moving consumer goods lately do quite well in the market. And the Nigerian oil and gas sector was also up, was unchanged, I beg your pardon. We saw the market remain just the same as it was on Thursday. And we did see the insurance sector down by 1.05%. And now to the major markets across the African region. Of course, speaking of the GSE, that is the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, where the market, first of all, let's look at the top trades and market movers from Friday. And then we'll look at J-Paul Gold and Ventures, which of course we did see have about 165 million shares. And away from that, we did see Universal Insurance as well, up by 101 million shares. United Bank for Africa, that is the banking sector, the bank was up by 61.5 million shares. And meanwhile, also moving away from the top trades in the market now. We will look at the African market. Speaking of the other quite competitive stock exchanges around the African region, starting off with the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. The market ended Friday's trading session in the positive, up by 0.42%, hitting about 71,393 point in the market. And followed suit, we saw the GSE, that is the Ghana Stock Exchange, up by 0.0%, maintaining the same as we had seen in the market on Thursday. It's about 3,195. And next is the Nairobi Stock Exchange, a pretty small stock exchange over there, which has been doing quite well in the year 2023. We did see this Nairobi Stock Exchange up by 0.71% at 88.95 point. Well, there you have it. That is the stock market review for today, speaking about how the markets fared on Friday. Right about now, we will go on a short break, and when we return, my guest will be joining me, and today the program will be focusing on taxation, just how much we can improve fiscal sustainability through taxation. Do stay tuned.
It was never a consensus. We did all our best. You see, in politics, you give your contribution to the best of your ability.
If you want, I'll forward to you this statement. You go to this bank and verify.
But there are people who say not spending money is not about you.
I'm coming. Let me finish.
But there's so much to be done.
Let me finish. Now, you don't allow me to explain myself.
The recent development shows abductions are now a factor of informants embedded in community.
It's not about the people of Katsina to say that, no, during my administration I was able to stop insecurity. No. Is about collective responsibility for all of us.
And what we should ask ourselves is not what has been seen, is the life better? Are there more people who are unemployed who are not become employed? Is the level of corruption has gone down? Is there inclusion? All those issues.
We're actually a gas country with associated oil. Our focus has always been on oil, that we have never paid significant attention to gas.
To do it effectively, we need to have honest conversation with ourselves. Government needs to come down from its high horse and communicate with the people and build trust.
There must be a solution. We cannot continue this way. They must come back to the table and agree. So whose child will do deny education? All these children that sit for them, they want to go to higher institutions.
But just a short while ago you were saying that why bring 10 children when you cannot cater for them? So why bring more universities when you cannot cater for the existing?
And you're still onto Business Daily and Trust Television. And there has been a lot of conversations lately about ramping up revenue for the government. And one of the major ways by which the government, of course, does that is through taxation. But how can we, ensure tax compliance towards fiscal sustainability? I am now joined by my guest, who is, of course, a tax expert and the partner at Doxis Consult. He is Niyi Akinsanya. Thank you very much, sir, for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And let's just start off with you giving us a background knowledge on taxation. And I'd like for you to, paint a picture as to what the tax system in Nigeria currently is like. From your own point of view, you are someone who watches that sector very closely. How would you say the Nigerian tax sector is currently faring?
Thank you. Meanwhile, my name is Akinsanya Niyi, not Adesanya, like you said. It's nice being on this program. The Nigerian tax system is evolving, just as every other thing. So we're moving forward, we're getting it right. Stage by stage, the tax system generally is evolving and is improving on a daily basis as things unfold. We are getting there. We're not perfect. the tax ratio to GDP is not the best, but the economy or the Nigerian tax system is evolving, is growing, is improving by the day. Thank God for all of the improvement. And what federal government is doing at the moment, trying to set up different committees to see to improve tax payment and even tax administration in Nigeria.
Okay, you touched on the current tax to GDP ratio, which we are aware currently stands at about 10.8%. And you also did talk on the efforts by the government to improve that. One of those efforts is, of course, the inauguration of the Presidential Tax Committee, which we saw recently. That has said that it plans to ramp up that figure to about 18% in the next 3 years. How feasible is that? And if that is attainable, what are the steps you would recommend they took?
Okay, very feasible. And currently, from even the setup of the committee that we saw, it's a right step in the right direction, trying to get that done. Also, one of the major differences, one of the major issues that is in the Nigerian system is the trust gap that we have between the taxpayers and the tax administrators or the spenders of the money, or the government, as the case may be. So that's the committee's job include improving the perception that the Nigerians have in taxes. So if that is being done, and thank God for digitalization, and that improving that too will also help us to get there, but we will get there.
Indeed. I'm glad you touched on the trust deficit that currently does exist between the governed and those in government. But speaking on the trust deficit still, one of the issues I have come to understand is the issue of the multiplicity of tax. You know, the average one in the market being taxed by federal government, state government, and local government. How can we harmonize these numerous taxes that the average person gets to pay on a day-to-day basis?
The committee that is set up by the federal government, the Presidential Committee on Tax and Fiscal Policy, one of the major tasks that they have to do to overcome is to reduce the duplication in tax collection and multiplication of taxes, though. They're trying to harmonize. They will definitely go to legislation. There will be legislation to harmonize, to reduce. And also, when we have full digital tax collection, it will also eliminate. The federal government is moving very fast through FIRS. Some of the states' government are also moving very fast in harmonizing and in reducing multiplicity of taxes. But the adoption of digital payment in taxes or online real-time payment in taxes is actually slow down the ladder. It's not, but we will get there. The processes are on. It is not just the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It is not just the federal government. We have the state, the local government. So at all tiers of government, these taxes needed to be harmonized and reduced to make it easy. The federal government set up a committee which is supposed to help. That is the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council. That council is also working hard to ensure that doing business in Nigeria is made easy. So they are also talking around taxes. So all of this going into implementation will reduce the multiplicity and even the duplication of taxes.
Well, I'm very glad you touched on the ease of doing business, because beyond Nigeria, we have the entire world watching to see just how the business climate in Nigeria is. But I would also like to hear from you, because speaking of increasing the Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio cannot be possible without tax compliance. I mean, I've heard some people say things such as, if I am providing power for my business, if I'm parting the way or paving the way to my business, why then should I pay tax? How can the government, collaborate with the average person that they feel the need to constantly be updated when it comes to tax payments?
Basically, I think most Nigerians really do not care to differentiate between taxes and levies or fees. As long as they are paid to government, they are called taxes. Yes, it is difficult for a small business to provide all its services or all of its required power, even tar the road to your own offices and expect to pay taxes. That is one of the bane of evasion that we have. However, these services we need to be able to, as a Nigerian, hold our government to account. We need to be able to, but there is the lack, because of the government is actually not even taxing enough, or they not depend on the taxes. We depend on other sources of revenue for the nation, and most individuals and organizations do not even pay enough. So the moral right to hold the government accountable is not even there. Otherwise, why should I pay taxes and yet everything is not working and I am not complaining? So we need to be able to pay taxes, then hold the government accountable. We can be sure that the effective utilization of these funds will be in place.
Well, I am curious, Mr. Niyi. You said that an average Nigerian does not pay enough taxes.
Yes, clear. Adequately. Yes, most Nigerians don't pay adequate taxes. In short, recently, sometimes last year or thereabout, the FIRS chairman, then FIRS chairman, said that only about 21 million Nigerians pay taxes. You understand? Last year, again, he said about 40 million Nigerians currently pay taxes. You can compare that to the population of the nation. Compare that to that, you can be sure that most Nigerians do not pay adequately. So then, talking about adequate taxes, yes, we may pay direct and indirect taxes. Every step we take, we pay taxes. Every goods we buy, we pay taxes. So, but basically, the actual direct taxes, how many Nigerians do pay? For instance, if we take a sample amongst 10, do you understand, that are not in a formal employment, that are not in the informal, that are in the informal sector, ask what portion of taxes do we pay? If we pay at all, it's low.
That's the untaxed.
Yes. Yes, sir. Even those people that pay taxes, what are we paying adequately? Do we have the moral right to ask for it, understanding that some of us actually evade taxes or avoid taxes massively? So it gives also the moral justification of asking question.
And I'll take you up from, you talked a bit on accountability from the government.
Yes.
And more recently, we've seen an increase in revenue from the removal of fuel subsidy, the subsidy also when it came to Forex, of course. And how then can we, block loopholes? Because there are a lot of loopholes where these monies are spent. How can we block these loopholes and, of course, hold our government accountable as a people?
It is very, very necessary for us to hold the government accountable. However, that's not to say that we do not have massive loopholes and outflows of government revenues or taxes. Yes, we pay to government at one hand, and suddenly we see that government are not effectively utilizing these funds. It gives it increases the trust gap that we have. However, government through the the instrumentality of digital system, the instrumentality of internet, the instrumentality of online real-time solutions, we could be able to block most of these leakages. These leakages must be blocked because the statistics shows that majority of the funds do not even get to the appropriate quarters. Even those that are being paid are siphoned. Yes, but the government need to do that by encouraging. Okay, FIRS recently have been pushing forward with the iTax system. The iTax is supposed to significantly improve its integrated tax administration system. They're supposed to improve collection, and if that is fully implemented, if you're paying, you see what you're paying. You have it flows easily. Everybody sees the funds. As you're paying, everybody can see. Then it reduces the gap of leakages. It blocks the gap of leakages. Then integrating this tax system too, not just at the federal level, but across the 3 tiers of government, can also increase revenue. And if that is done, you and I can hold the government really accountable.
Indeed, I was going to ask if or how that could be implemented at local levels, because we see a lot of collection of tax by hand at the local levels. But now let's take a closer look at the recent committee that was established, speaking of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee. That committee, of course, has been given the responsibility to review and advise on reforms when it relates to taxation. Looking at the timeline that committee has, which we're aware is about a year, what would you advise, the head of that committee and its members towards the achievement of the goals that have been set out for it?
Okay, the committee have started on a good foot. Recently, they came out, I think, submitting their report, itemizing some of the things that they intend to carry out within the time frame that they have, having the quick fix, the short term, and even the long term. Don't forget that the mandate of the committee include implementation. So some of the committees, you see, I think one of the quick fix that the committee is recommending is the waiver of interest and penalty for anybody that is ready to pay up his tax liability, which is a good one. So we need to encourage the citizenry to also pay taxes. Sometimes the interest and penalty is so huge, and that will also discourage payment. Then also they are also recommending instrumental payment. This instrumental payment will also encourage payment of taxes, and will also make taxpayers feel comfortable to pay over time. They're also recommending that full implementation of iTax. You understand? Integrated tax system. These are some of their recommendations that they are doing, which will encourage this. And with that, I believe that all of these recommendations, some of them will actually need to go back to legislation. They need to go back to the legislative arm of government to pass it into law, because some of them are significantly changed in the process, change in the administration of taxes in Nigeria.
So the projection of an 18% tax to GDP ratio in 1 year is very feasible?
Yes, it is feasible.
It is by the committee. You expect that to happen in 1 year, considering the complexities around the Nigerian taxation system? Yes,
one of the major complexities in the Nigerian tax system I mentioned earlier is that majority of Nigerians in the informal sectors do not even pay taxes. So for that reason, the committee is also working on what they call data for tax. This is aggregating data to use in assessing people, drawing more people into the tax net, and over the period, you realize that more people will pay taxes. It is sometimes not necessarily the increase in taxes, in specific tax, that increase revenue, but the collection. More people pay taxes, you get more, not necessarily increasing the percentage or tax head in itself.
So in a minute or 30 seconds, I'd like for you to put out a message out there for those who think, I may not have to pay taxes. What would that message from you to them be?
It is a shared responsibility for the nation and for us to pay our own share in taxes for the betterment of the nation.
Thank you very much for that very insightful conversation, Mr. Akinsanya Niyi, who is a tax expert, and he has spoken extensively on taxation and how we can ramp up compliance and increase fiscal sustainability through taxation. And this is where we wrap up today's edition of the program Business Daily on Trust Television. Do well to join us again, same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching.